Hi everyone! Today I am going to demonstrate how to make blueberry muffins. And this is a really cool recipe because you can use it and kind of customize it to whatever type of muffins you want. Like you could put in blueberries, you can put apples and a little bit of cinnamon, you can put mashed up banana and make banana muffins. So this is a really good recipe because you can customize it. But today we're going to be making blueberry muffins. So I've already washed my hands and I'm ready to get started. Okay, so for the recipe, you can scroll down and click on see more under this video and it'll show the recipe in the description. Okay, so step one says preheat the oven to 400 degrees. So I've already done that. I turned on the oven 15 minutes earlier than I wanted to make the blueberry muffins. So it's nice and hot and ready to go. Step two says place a paper muffin liner in each muffin cup or spray muffin tin with cooking spray. All right, so I'm gonna use this muffin tin here, and you can see I've already started putting a muffin liner in each muffin cup. They just come like this. Make sure you kind of take your fingers and move them apart and put them in. Or if you're at home and you don't have the muffin liners, you can just use a light layer of cooking spray on the muffin tin. But we're gonna do the liners because it's kind of nice and it makes them more portable too. Okay, step three. In a small mixing bowl, beat eggs slightly with a fork, stir in the milk and oil. Okay, so I've got my smaller mixing bowl and the first thing I need is 1 egg. So I'm going to take my egg here. Now remember, when you're gonna crack an egg, you wanna hold it like you're throwing a fastball with your fingers over the top instead of like a change up like this, okay? So I've got my 2 fingers over the top. I'm gonna tap on the flat counter and then I'll break it into the bowl. I like to crack it on something flat because then less shell gets into my recipe. A couple taps and then pull it apart, okay? And it says to, in a small bowl, beat eggs slightly with a fork. So basically what I'm doing here is just mixing up the yolk and the white before I put in the other wet ingredients. The way you make muffins is you mix together the wet ingredients, you mix together the dry ingredients, and then you put them together. Okay, so I have beaten the egg, and now I'm going to add the milk. So I look to the recipe, I need 1 cup of milk. So I've got my milk here. It is a liquid, so I'm going to use a liquid measuring cup and pour it up to the 1 cup line. Remember, when you're measuring a liquid, it is important to use a liquid measuring cup and get down eye level. There we go, 1 cup of milk. And put that in to the small mixing bowl. And it says stir in the milk and the oil. So for oil, I look to the top. I need 1/4 cup of oil. Of course, it's a liquid, so I am going to use a liquid measuring cup and fill it to the 1/4 cup line. And eye level, looks good. 1/4 cup of oil will go in there. And then I'm going to stir that in. So now my liquid ingredients are blended together. So now I'm gonna go with my large mixing bowl and start mixing together my dry ingredients. So I'm gonna set this off to the side, okay? So now I am on step 4. 4 says, in a separate large mixing bowl, blend the flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. All right, so for flour, I look to the top. I need 2 cups of flour, okay? So flour is gonna be in your large canister, in your staple foods cabinet, and I'm gonna get 2 cups. Now remember from our measuring lesson that we know flour is a very fluffy ingredient, and when you're measuring flour, you don't pack it into the measuring cup. You stir it and spoon it to make it nice and fluffy. So we stir it, spoon it, stir it and spoon it. Use a large spoon, stir it and spoon it so it's overflowing. And then I'm gonna take my leveler, or you can use the flat side of a butter knife, level across. And And there's a perfect 1 cup of flour. But I need a second 1 cup. So it's 2 cups of flour. So give it a quick stir and spoon it in. Stir it and spoon it so it's overflowing. And level across. All right, 2 cups of flour. And then I need a 1/2 cup of sugar. So again, this is in your staple food cabinet. Got your sugar canister. It's the medium-sized canister. Flour is usually in the largest one. And we need a 1/2 cup of sugar. Now sugar is not fluffy like flour, so we don't have to stir it and spoon it because it can't pack down. Sugar's easy. You can just fill it so it's overflowing. Take your leveler and level that across. We'll put in that 1/2 cup of sugar. And next I need 1 tablespoon baking powder. Okay. Here's my baking powder. Make sure you don't get the baking soda. Baking powder and baking soda are not the same chemical. So they're made with, baking powder has another ingredients added in. So make sure you use baking powder, not the baking soda. Okay, baking powder, I need a tablespoon. Remember, baking powder has that nice built-in leveler. So we just fill it so it's overflowing. And then run it across that leveler. And there we go. Got our tablespoon of baking powder. Make sure you get the tablespoon, TBSP, not the teaspoon, tablespoon. And I need a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So salt is in our small canister in our staple foods cabinet. And make sure you get the 1/2 TSP. I've had a lot of kids ruin this recipe. A lot of kids over the years ruin this recipe. Their blueberry muffins end up going in the garbage because instead of the 1/2 teaspoon of salt, they use the tablespoon of salt. This is way bigger. It will ruin it for sure. And you have to really be careful because since we're using this recipe as part of our brunch that we serve to our teachers, it would be very embarrassing if a teacher ate a blueberry muffin and they were disgusting. So make sure you get that 1/2 teaspoon for the salt. That would totally ruin your recipe if you didn't. 1/2 teaspoon, and of course level that across. Okay, so I'm gonna read that step 4 again, make sure I've gotten everything. Step 4 says in a separate large mixing bowl, blend the flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. That's good, so I have everything. And I'm gonna blend these together. And I think I'm gonna blend these with a rubber scraper. So I wanna make sure I get that salt and that baking powder blended all the way in. I wanna make sure all the salt doesn't like end up in one blueberry muffin. That would be disgusting. So blend this thoroughly. This is why it's nice to blend this separately. Why with muffins we blend them, the dry ingredients separately from the wet ingredients. All right, that looks good. Now the next step is to make a well. A well is kind of like a little hole in the middle. There we go. So we're on step 5. Step 5 says add the liquid mixture to the dry mixture. Okay, so I'm going to take my liquid mixture that I've already blended together, pour it in that well, and then I'm going to blend it. It says step 6, stir just enough to moisten the dry ingredients. The mixture should be slightly lumpy. A lot of people don't realize this, but with blueberry muffins, to make them nice and fluffy, really good blueberry muffins are not overly mixed. They're just mixed enough to wet the flour to get it all incorporated, but it should be lumpy. So you can see this is nice that you use this rubber scraper because I can scrape the side of the bowl and blend everything in. I'm also scraping the bottom right now so no flour is hiding down there. Just kind of folding it over, scraping the bowl and folding it over until I don't see any flour chunks not mixed in. But you can see it still has a lot of lumps, and that's what I want. And that looks good. All the flour's incorporated, but it's still lumpy, so I stopped stirring, very important. I didn't use a whisk, I didn't stir it really hard. I just gently stirred it and kind of scraped the side and scraped the bottom, but there's still lumps in there. So now I am on step 7. 7 says gently stir in the fruit. The reason you want to gently stir in the fruit, especially with blueberries, is you don't want to pop them and have all the juice, you know, turn your muffins blue and yellow, they turn them kind of green. So I look to the top, I need a half a cup of blueberries, so I've got my half cup dry measuring cup. I'm going to be using frozen blueberries because it's easy to keep them in the freezer. But you could use fresh blueberries if you want. You can use canned blueberries, it's fine. I'm going to get a half a cup of blueberries, put them in, and then it said gently stir in the fruit. Please be careful with this. Don't over stir in the blueberries, and don't add the blueberries until the last minute when everything else is already blended. Okay, so now I'm going to just gently stir them in, just barely a little bit. Now I've had kids that add the blueberries first, and then they got to mix everything together, and then by the time they have to mix it a lot, the blueberries all pop and then their muffins turn green. So that's not attractive. All right, so now I am on step 8. Fill the muffin cups 2/3 full, okay? So I'm gonna use my large spoon again. And 2/3 means like over halfway. So you take a spoonful of batter and you start filling the muffin cups. Now it's very important that you try not to spill on the muffin tin. If you do, it's okay, but you're gonna get a paper towel and wipe up any spills. Because if I spill, and then like if I spill and have a bunch on my muffin tin and then put it in the oven, that spill will burn to the muffin tin and it'll be really hard for you to wash off later. And you know, you're gonna have to do your dishes. So you wanna make sure you are careful not to spill. And if you do, no big deal, but just make sure you wipe up those spills. So we're just filling it a little over halfway. And if you do it correctly, it should fill up 12 just about perfectly. Like I said, you could use, I could put a half a cup of mashed banana in there and make banana muffins. I could put a half a cup of chopped up apple and maybe a little sprinkle of cinnamon in there and make cinnamon apple ones. That would be super good. So, oh, you know, this sounds kind of weird, but actually it's good. You can actually make cheese muffins by putting a half a cup of shredded cheddar cheese in there. It's super good. I don't know if you've ever had at, oh, what's that restaurant? They have the cheddar biscuits at, oh, I can't think of the name of the restaurant. Can anybody help me in the audience? Yes?
Red Lobster?
At Red Lobster, yes, at Red Lobster, thank you. They have the Cheddar Bay biscuits, and they're super good. So you can kind of put some, half a cup of cheddar in. Now you can see I have one little spill here. So I'm gonna run over here real quick and just grab a paper towel. And I'm gonna wipe up this spill because I don't want that batter to burn to the pan. So make sure you do this. Your pan should be clean before you put it in the oven. Okay, so now you can see that I have filled them all 2/3 full, okay? I'm just ready for the next step. So the next step says 9, bake 15 to 20 minutes until muffins have golden brown spots on the top. So I'm gonna walk with this over to my oven now. And like I said, I've already got it preheated to 400 degrees, okay? Now when I put something in the oven, of course, I'm gonna wanna use a hot pad, or if you're a beginner cook, you might wanna be using an oven mitt. I'm gonna open the door all the way down. Don't open just a little bit, make sure you open it all the way. And I'm gonna use my hot pad. I'm gonna turn it this way, and I'm gonna set it in like this. Okay, I'm being very careful not to touch here, the rack, or the inside of the door. And I'm gonna shut the oven, and then I'm gonna set it for the lowest possible time, which is 15 minutes. So I'm gonna push timer set, 15, and start. And then that will start counting down. All right, I'm gonna walk back over to my demonstration table and tell you how we're gonna finish up. So these will bake for about 15 minutes. At 15 minutes, I always set the timer for the lowest possible time, and it said 15 to 20. At 15 minutes, I'm gonna open the door a little and take a peek. If the muffins are still white on top, they're not done, and I'll try another minute. What I'm looking for is they're done if they have a couple of golden brown spots on the top. Just a couple of golden brown spots, then they're done. Then I'm gonna use 2 hot pads. I'm gonna open the door all the way, pull it straight out with 2 hot pads or 2 oven mitts, and put them on top of the stove. Then I'm gonna let them cool on top of the stove for a few minutes, and then I can pop them out with a butter knife or a leveler and add some butter to them and eat them. Be delicious. All right, well, I hope you try to make these at home, and I hope they turn out delicious for you and your family.